If you live on the African continent, you already know what it feels like when a more powerful country decides your future for you. You know what it looks like when a foreign government overthrows a leader who tried to put his own people first. You know what it means to have your resources extracted, your sovereignty disrespected, and your history rewritten by the people who caused the damage. Africa knows this story. What most people don't know is that Iran lived a version of the same story, and understanding why Iran hates America isn't just about the Middle East. It's a mirror, and Africa needs to see what's in it. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll never look at this war the same way again. This surprises most people. But after World War II, Iran and the United States were close partners. Iran was a constitutional monarchy under Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. The US saw Iran as a strategic buffer against Soviet expansion. They had oil, they had geography, and they had a functioning Western-aligned government. The two nations traded. They cooperated on security. American companies operated freely in Iran. But beneath that relationship was a quiet reality that would eventually explode. America wasn't partnering with Iran, it was managing Iran. And the moment an Iranian leader tried to change that arrangement, everything fell apart. His name was Mohammad Mossadegh, and he was Iran's democratically elected prime minister. In 1951, he did something that changed everything. He nationalized Iran's oil industry, taking it back from the British-controlled Anglo-Iranian oil company, which you know today as BP. Think about what that means. Iran's oil being taken out of Iran, profits going to Britain, and an Iranian leader who said, "No more." The British were furious. They went to Washington, and the CIA, under President Eisenhower, designed a plan to destroy him. They called it Operation Ajax. They funded street protests. They bribed military officers. They manufactured chaos. And they removed a democratically elected prime minister from power. Mossadegh was arrested, tried, and spent the rest of his life under house arrest. The Shah was put back in place, now fully under US control. For Washington, it was a Cold War chess move. Oil interests protected, Soviet influence blocked. For Iran, it was the day America destroyed their democracy. Now, does that story sound familiar to anyone on the African continent? Because between 1950 and 1980, the CIA and Western intelligence services orchestrated or supported the removal of democratically elected and independent leaders across Africa. From Patrice Lumumba in Congo to Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana to Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. The playbook was identical. The justification was always the same. Iran was not unique. Iran was just one chapter in a much longer book. The US didn't formally admit its role in the 1953 Iranian coup until 2013, 60 years later. Drop A if you knew about the 1953 coup, and A if this reminded you of African history. With US backing, the Shah modernized parts of Iran. But he ran a brutal police state. His secret police, the Savak, were trained in part by the CIA. They tortured political dissidents. They imprisoned thousands. They silenced anyone who challenged the regime. Bend and the US looked the other way because the Shah was their man. Meanwhile, a cleric named Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini was building a revolution from exile, rooted in Islamic identity and fierce anti-American sentiment. Blinger. The more America propped up the Shah, the more ordinary Iranians connected American power with oppression of their own people. By 1978, the streets of Iran erupted. Shah fled. Khomeini returned. The Islamic Republic of Iran was born. America had just lost its most important Middle Eastern ally. Overnight. Then President Carter allowed the exiled, dying Shah to enter the United States for medical treatment. To Iranians, it was a final insult. The man who had overseen decades of torture and repression was being sheltered by the country that had put him in power. Iranian students stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran and took 52 American diplomats and citizens hostage. They held them for 444 days. A U.S. military rescue attempt crashed in the Iranian desert. 8 American soldiers died. Blum to the hostages were finally released on January Arsers, each and Jubite Bajari, the exact day Ronald Reagan was inaugurated. It was a deliberate final humiliation of President Carter. For Americans, this was the moment Iran became the enemy. Landy, but for Iranians, this was the moment they finally hit back. They weren't starting a conflict. In their minds, they were responding to one that had started in 1953. When Iraq's Saddam Hussein invaded Iran in 1980, the U.S. chose sides against Iran. They gave Saddam Hussein military intelligence, economic support, and, according to declassified documents, turned away when he used chemical weapons on Iranian soldiers and civilians. An estimated 500,000 to 1 million Iranians died in that war. Then in 1988, the USS Vincennes, a U.S. Navy ship, shot down Iran Air Flight 655. All 290 civilians on board were killed. The U.S. called it a mistake. Iran called it murder. Washington never formally apologized. The ship's commander was later awarded a military decoration. 290 civilians killed, no apology. Does this sound familiar? Comment below. After the war, the U.S. imposed sweeping economic sanctions on Iran that strangled ordinary Iranians for decades. In 2002, President George W. Bush named Iran part of the Axis of Evil, alongside Iraq and North Korea. Then came the nuclear dispute. Iran pursued uranium enrichment. Washington said it was building weapons. Tehran said it was civilian energy. Neither side fully trusted the other, for reasons this video has already made clear. In 2015, the Obama administration reached a historic agreement, the Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA. Iran froze its nuclear program. Sanctions were partially lifted. It was the closest the two nations had come to peace. In 2018, President Trump tore it up. Iran resumed enrichment. The window closed. The United States military killed General Qasem Soleimani, Iran's most powerful military commander, in a drone strike at Baghdad International Airport. Iran launched ballistic missiles at U.S. bases in Iraq. Over 100 American service members were injured. The world waited for open war. It didn't come. Not yet. What happened next is why this video exists. Don't go anywhere. After the Soleimani killing, the fuse was lit. From 2020 to 2022, Iran quietly accelerated its nuclear program. International inspectors were restricted. Diplomacy stalled. In 2023, a new Middle East crisis erupted, the Hamas-Israel conflict, and Iran's proxy network activated across the region. Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, militias in Iraq. 2024 brought direct escalation. Iran and Israel exchanged missile strikes openly on each other's soil for the first time in history. Then came June 2025, the 12-day war. It ended with the United States launching airstrikes on Iranian nuclear sites, but Iran didn't back down. By January 2026, mass protests erupted inside Iran, the largest since 1979. The largest since a collapsing economy, a government losing its grip. The regime's response was brutal. Thousands of civilians were massacred. Trump threatened military action, the largest U.S. military buildup in the Middle East since the Arslan Iraq invasion was underway. Talks were attempted. In February, Arslan U.S. and Iranian officials held indirect negotiations in Muscat, Oman. A deal seemed possible. Then on February, while those negotiations were still active, the United States and Israel launched a coordinated surprise attack. They called it Operation Epic Fury, stealth bombers, Tomahawk missiles, decapitation strikes. Banned Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, Iran's ruler for over 3 decades, was killed. Iran responded with hundreds of drones and ballistic missiles. The Strait of Hormuz was closed. Global trade was disrupted. The Middle East was on fire. 70. 3 years after the CIA overthrew Iran's democracy, the two countries were finally at open war. Cern Skull. So why does Iran hate America? Now Iran doesn't hate America because America is free. Iran doesn't hate America because of religion or culture or envy. Iran hates America because America overthrew their democracy. Because America trained the secret police that tortured their citizens. Because America armed the dictator who gassed their children. Blamed. Because America shot down their civilian airliner and gave out medals for it. Because America tore up the peace deal the moment a new president came to power. Because America killed their top general while he was traveling through a third country. And because, after all of that, America launched a war while Iran's diplomats were still sitting at the negotiating table. B. That is not hatred without reason. That is a response to a 73-year relationship built on dominance, deception, and disregard. Now, here's why this matters for Africa. Because the same patterns of resource control, government interference, economic coercion, and selective military force that shaped U.S.-Iran relations, Africa has lived versions of all of them. The question Africa must ask, watching this war unfold, is not who is right. The question is, what does this tell us about how powerful nations treat countries that refuse to stay in their lane? Because the answer to that question will shape Africa's strategy for the next 50 years. Does Iran's story remind you of anything in Africa's history? Name the country, name the leader. Let's talk about it in the comments. Share this with someone who thinks geopolitics doesn't affect everyday life. Subscribe to Africa Builds, because understanding the world is the first step to changing Africa's place in it. Band watch part are now. The link is on screen. Africa didn't start this war, but Africa will pay for it.